Before we get started, I'm on Twitter at IamSean90. I'm trying to get to 1,000 followers. It's kind of ridiculous that I'm almost at 50,000 subscribers and under 1,000 followers, so follow me there. What's up guys, Sean here, and today we're going to talk about the Green New Deal being voted down in the Senate. It has not been a good week for Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, despite what she says about it. After a solid month and a half of being mocked for her Green New Deal proposal, a proposal which contained ridiculous provisions like we're going to pay people unable and unwilling to work. And then Mitch McConnell, at the height of his troll powers, decided to bring the Green New Deal up for a vote in the Senate, where it received a grand total of 0 yes votes. Which means that all of the Democratic presidential candidates who have said that they support the Green New Deal didn't vote for it, and Senator Markey, who proposed it in the Senate, didn't vote for it. Now, these senators knew that the only reason McConnell brought it up for a vote is because it was so ridiculous he was trying to get some of the Democrats on record as in favor of it, because basically supporting this bill or having your name attached to this bill should be electoral cancer going forward. So all but the 4 Democrats who actually voted with the Republicans and voted no on the bill decided to vote present on the bill to make a statement and try to salvage some credibility around this Green New Deal. Now, of course, voting present was obviously a cynical political move by the Democrats. A lot of these Democratic presidential candidates want to still say that they're in favor of the Green New Deal, but when they go into a general election against Trump, they don't want to be on record as supporting the Green New Deal. Now, while it is fun to point and laugh at the Democrats, and Ocasio-Cortez in particular, I mean, she just keeps stepping in it. Before the Green New Deal vote, she went on this weird spastic Twitter rampage on Fox News because some people on Fox News call her Congresswoman Cortez instead of Ocasio-Cortez. And according to her, the people at Fox weren't doing this because time is really precious on TV and they're always trying to shorthand stuff. They were doing this because Cortez sounds super Latino and they were trying to gin up the evil racists in the Fox News audience. Which makes no sense because you know it sounds more Latino than 1 Hispanic last name? 2 obviously Hispanic last names. Ocasio-Cortez does not sound any less Hispanic or Latino than Ocasio or Cortez individually. But putting that fun stuff aside, I want to talk about the way that Congresswoman Ocasio-Cortez sells the Green New Deal, because she uses a technique in politics that I like to refer to as the "oh my god, we're gonna all die unless you pass my policy. You're not voting for my policy? Well, you're killing me and you're killing my people." And I'm not being hyperbolic about that. Congresswoman Ocasio-Cortez has consistently said that if we don't pass the Green New Deal, we are all going to die in 12 years. The world will actually end in 12 years unless we do what she says.
And we're like, the world is going to end in 12 years if we don't address climate change.
Now, this is probably the thing I hate the most about American politics and politics as a whole, where you assume a position of unearned moral superiority and basically imply that your political opponent's disagreement with you are because they are inferior morally, and that will then cause mass deaths, or in this case, the literal end of the world.
And we're like, the world is going to end in 12 years if we don't address climate change.
That is not a way to start a rational debate, find out what the best policies are, and then implement those policies. That is a technique used to incite panic in order to push through bad policies to help authoritarian-minded politicians. And one of the worst things about this type of rhetoric is that it actually can work. It can appeal to voters. It can give the people using this type of rhetoric a sense of moral superiority where they should not have one. Like, take a look at this clip where Ocasio-Cortez describes how people are dying because the Republicans are making fun of her Green New Deal.
This is not an elitist issue. This is a quality of life issue. You want to tell people that their concern and their desire for clean air and clean water is elitist? Tell that to the kids in the South Bronx, which are suffering from the highest rates of childhood asthma in the country. Tell that to the families in Flint, whose kids have their blood is ascending in lead levels. Their brains are damaged for the rest of their lives. Call them elitist. You're telling them that those kids are trying to get on a plane to Davos? People are dying. They are dying. And the response across the other side of the aisle is to introduce an amendment 5 minutes before a hearing in a markup. This is serious. This should not be a partisan issue. This is about our constituents and all of our lives. I don't think so. This is about our lives. This is about American lives. And it should not be partisan. Science should not be partisan. We are facing a national crisis. And if we do not ascend to that crisis, if we do not ascend to the levels in which we were threatened at the Great Depression, when we were threatened in World War II, if we do not ascend to those levels, then I don't know what we're here doing. I don't know what we're here doing.
Now, that clip was shared all over Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. It was picked up by left-wing media outlets, and most of the reaction from her base of support and people on the left was positive to it. And the reason why is because that clip gives the illusion that Ocasio-Cortez is standing up for the little guy. She's speaking truth to power. She's passionate about what she's talking about. However, when you use this part of your body, the organ inside your head, you realize that clip is nowhere near accurate. In that now viral clip, which is being used to push the Green New Deal, aka fight climate change, aka reduce carbon emissions, Ocasio-Cortez claims that we need to do this because people are dying right now. And the examples she cites are Michigan and the Bronx asthma rate.
Tell that to the families in Flint whose kids have their blood is ascending in lead levels. Their brains are damaged for the rest of their lives. Call them elitists.
But Flint, Michigan's water issues had nothing to do with global warming or climate change, and the Green New Deal isn't a solution to that problem. What happened in Flint is they switched the water source to a more acidic water source. That extra acidity in the water brought up lead from the pipes, and that ended up in the water supply. So while Ocasio-Cortez comes off as somebody who really cares about the people in Flint, she's actually using that situation to push her political agenda when her political agenda has no real direct connection to that situation.
Tell that to the kids in the South Bronx, which are suffering from the highest rates of childhood asthma in the country.
And the same is true about the Bronx asthma situation. According to her, near her district, there are people in the Bronx with higher asthma rates than almost anywhere in the country. If that's true, it's not being caused by carbon dioxide because carbon dioxide is not a pollutant in the traditional sense. Even your fiercest climate change advocates don't claim that carbon dioxide is what's poisoning our air and water. What they say is carbon dioxide is a greenhouse gas that traps heat, thus causing global warming, which leads to climate change. So while Ocasio-Cortez comes off like she's really passionate and Republicans don't care about people dying from the consequences of climate change, she's completely inaccurate, and she's using unrelated deaths due to clean water and clean air issues to promote her own political agenda, which would give her more political power. And again, this is not unusual for Ocasio-Cortez. One of her most famous viral clips is of her saying that it's not about being precisely factually correct, it's about being morally correct, which is nonsense.
I think that there's a lot of people more concerned about being precisely, factually, and semantically correct than about being morally right.
But it actually gets a lot worse. On the MSNBC special about the Green New Deal, she made this strange argument comparing the death toll in Puerto Rico to the death toll of 9/11.
On the events of September 11th, 2001, thousands of Americans died in the largest terrorist attack on U.S. soil. And our national response, whether we agree with it or not, our national response was to go to war in one, then eventually two countries. 3,000 Americans died in Puerto Rico in the aftermath of Hurricane Maria. Where is our response?
Now, while according to the argument she cited, the death toll is equivalent, there are two major problems with what she just said. The first is pretty obvious. Every time there's a snowstorm or some kind of cold weather snap, and Republicans use that to say, what about global warming? People on the left always say, you're so anti-science, you can't attribute individual weather events to global warming or climate change. Well, she's doing that in this very clip, so that rule only applies when you're Republicans, and it hurts the Democratic side of the argument. Number two, and this should be really obvious to you guys watching, is that she's making one of the worst possible arguments you could make for voting for the Green New Deal. According to her, after 9/11, there was a gigantic response on behalf of the federal government. But she also says that she doesn't believe that response was the proper response. We launched 2 wars, we spent about $6 trillion in total costs on the war on terror, and she herself doesn't believe that's worth it. But despite the fact that she would probably argue that we kind of rushed into that response and made a lot of mistakes, She's saying that we should operate under the same logic and repeat the same mistakes post 9/11 times 20, because again, the Green New Deal would cost 20 times more than the war on terror. This is a terrible argument. The lesson from 9/11 should be that delay is always preferable to error, that we shouldn't pass radical legislation when we all are whipped up into a frenzy. But 2 seconds after Ocasio-Cortez acknowledges that there were some mistakes made after 9/11, she says that we should do the same thing, but on a much larger scale for the environment, as she's trying to whip us up into a frenzy. As I said at the start of the video, I think it's great that people are making fun of the left, they're making fun of Ocasio-Cortez, they're making fun of the Democrats. I think it's wonderful that the right has embraced comedy and mockery and meme culture, but we shouldn't get so caught up in mocking the left that we forget who these people are. This is the politics of doom and gloom. This is the politics of unearned moral superiority. They are trying to teach their base that your disagreements will equal the death of humanity. They will cite completely unrelated situations and couple that with this faux righteousness. But the moment there's another natural disaster or extreme weather event, this is the strategy that they're going to use. So it's important that you realize that they're using this now, that you can spot this technique, so that when something happens in the future, you aren't fooled when they're pushing their agenda as the solution. Anyway, that's all I really have for you guys today. Thank you so much for watching. If you liked this video, then please show me by leaving a like. You can subscribe for more content. Follow me on all my social medias. You can support me via one-time donation on PayPal or through Patreon, and subscribe to our monthly. This has been me talking about AOC using the politics of, oh my god, we're gonna die, to push the Green New Deal. Till next time.